I left work early that day. It was supposed to be a surprise. Melissa and I had been married for what felt like a lifetime. We'd built a quiet life in a little town outside Chicago. Nothing fancy, just honest. I never gave her diamonds, but I always made sure the bills were paid. Never missed a birthday. Never forgot to fix the leaky faucet. That was love in my language. For our anniversary, I picked up her favorite cake from the French place downtown, the one with the impossible parking. I even had a small box in my pocket, just a necklace, nothing flashy, but it had our initials engraved. I thought she'd appreciate the sentiment. She was the one who wanted to host dinner that night. Just family, she'd said. Nothing big. Let's keep it simple this year. I didn't argue. I rarely did. The house was already buzzing by the time I got home. Her sister Claire was laughing with Melissa in the kitchen. Her mom was rearranging candles on the dining table like it was some award ceremony. I walked in holding the cake, still in my work slacks, and nobody even looked up. Not even Melissa. "Hey," I said. She turned, barely smiled. "Can you take the trash out?" "The bag's full." That was it. No hug, no happy anniversary, no eye contact. Just the trash. I didn't say a word. I just took out the bag, tied it tight, and stood in the garage for a few seconds longer than necessary. I don't know why. Maybe something felt off already. Or maybe I just needed the silence. When I came back in, Melissa had changed clothes. Tight dress. Heels. Makeup heavier than usual. She never dressed like that for family. Caleb, our son, was sitting on the staircase, watching the living room like he was studying it. The way his eyes followed Melissa didn't feel casual. He looked tense. "You all right?" I asked him. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, just tired." I didn't press. Dinner started around 7. Melissa insisted on speeches before food. That was already weird. Her family wasn't big on formality. But I went along. I always did. She stood up at the head of the table, holding a glass of wine. "I want to say something tonight," she began, her tone sharp like she'd rehearsed it. "Something honest. Because I believe anniversaries should be about truth." The room got quiet. Even Claire put down her fork. "I've spent years trying to pretend everything's okay. But I can't keep living like this. Eric," she turned to me, eyes glassy but cold, "you've become a shadow in this house. You're not the man I married anymore. You're safe. Predictable. Absent. I need more." I didn't move. I felt every pair of eyes on me. "I've met someone," she said, and her voice didn't crack. "Someone who sees me. Who challenges me. Who reminds me I'm alive." Gasps from the table. Her mother covered her mouth. Her sister whispered something I didn't catch. Melissa didn't care. She looked proud. Like she'd just finished a TED Talk. "I'm leaving you, Eric. And I want everyone here to hear it. I'm not ashamed. I deserve to be happy." The glass of wine in my hand didn't tremble. Neither did my face. Because I already knew. I knew about Greg. I knew about the hotel on Route 30. I knew about the money she'd siphoned from our joint account. I even knew she'd asked her lawyer about pre-divorce asset transfers. I knew because someone had told me. Not a private investigator. Not a friend. Caleb. 2 weeks ago, he heard her talking on the phone late at night. She thought he was asleep. She called Greg the upgrade. She laughed about how Eric won't see it coming. He recorded it. Then came the second call. Then the third. He had everything. He came to me 2 days ago. I listened to every second. It hurt more than I thought humanly possible. But it also gave me time. Time to decide who I was going to be when this moment came. At the dinner table, as everyone stared at me, I said nothing. Melissa tilted her head. "You're just going to sit there?" I finally looked up. "Are you done?" She blinked. "What?" I asked if you're done. "Because if you are," I turned to Caleb. He was already reaching into his pocket. "I think it's my turn." Caleb didn't hesitate. He stood up slowly, pulled out his phone, and tapped the screen. A few beeps, then silence. And then, her voice. It echoed across the table, clear as a bell. "He's pathetic, Greg. I swear, I can't even look at him sometimes without feeling like I'm babysitting. The man still brings me flowers like that fixes anything." Melissa's face turned pale. She didn't move. No one did. "He's clueless. I told him I was going on a girls' trip, and he offered to drop me at the airport." I almost laughed. Her sister gasped. Her mother covered her mouth again. "Once I get Greg to lock in this job offer, I'm out. I'll make it clean. On our anniversary." Dramatic, right? Click. The recording stopped. You could hear forks drop. Breathing. Melissa's eyes darted toward Caleb like she didn't recognize him. Where did you get that? She whispered. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. I was venting. That was a private conversation. I looked across the table at my wife, the woman I'd bought a necklace for that day. The one who'd smiled at me last week like she didn't have a single secret in the world. I wasn't going to say anything tonight, I said quietly. I was going to let you walk away with your little speech and your audience. I even packed a bag already. That part hit her. Her face flickered. She wasn't expecting calm. She was expecting tears, or begging, or rage. But then, I went on, you had to make a show of it. You needed a stage. And you dragged Caleb into it the moment you did this in front of family. You didn't just betray me, Melissa. You humiliated your own son. I didn't know he was listening. Caleb interrupted, voice sharper than I'd ever heard it. I always listen. You just never cared enough to notice. That was when Melissa's mother stood up. Melissa, what is this? What have you done? Melissa reached out like she could undo it all with a gesture. Mom, it's not what it sounds like. Oh, I think it's exactly what it sounds like, Claire muttered. Her boyfriend Greg wasn't here. Of course he wasn't. He didn't need to be. His name was already burned into every corner of this evening. Melissa sat down, slowly, like her legs were failing her. You weren't supposed to hear that, she whispered to Caleb. He stared at her. But I did. I heard everything. I stood, calm, measured. My voice didn't raise. I wasn't going to give her a scene, just the facts. I've already moved half of our savings. Legally, I know the rules. You taught me half of them during tax season. I've spoken to a lawyer. Caleb is staying with me until he's old enough to decide for himself. Based on tonight, I think his mind's made up. You can't take him from me. She snapped, panic finally rising in her throat. I'm not taking him. You gave him away the moment you made him collateral damage in your little drama. The room remained still. No one moved to defend her. Not even her mother. Not even Claire. I'll ruin you, she said suddenly, standing again. Her face was flushed now, trembling. You think this little ambush makes you a hero? You're a coward. You waited for tonight because you wanted pity. I waited, I said softly, because I still had hope. That you'd remember who we were. That you wouldn't go through with it. But then you did. You made your choice, Melissa. I just made mine after you. I turned to the others at the table. I'm sorry you all had to see this. That our anniversary became this. But I won't pretend anymore. I turned to Caleb. Let's go. He nodded, grabbed his jacket, and followed me out the front door. Behind us, the house was silent. For the first time in 20 years, I walked away from that place with nothing but a coat and a calm heart. No yelling, no begging, just the truth. And my son. The apartment was temporary. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a kitchen where the fridge buzzed a little too loud. But it was quiet, peaceful. Caleb dropped his duffel bag near the couch and looked around. I thought it would smell like old carpet, he said, almost smiling. I handed him the spare key. I sprayed Febreze before picking you up. He gave a small nod, the kind only a teenager would consider a thank you. Neither of us mentioned the house. Not yet. We'd left everything behind. The backyard I spent 10 summers mowing, the pictures on the mantel that Melissa never dusted but wouldn't let me take down, the guest room she used when she was too tired. All of it. We walked out like it was a hotel we'd overstayed. I didn't feel relief. Not yet. Just a kind of quiet hollow. Like the walls I'd spent years protecting had finally admitted they didn't care who lived inside them. The next morning, I packed up my desk at the office. My boss, Howard, pulled me aside. Rough time? I nodded. Little bit. You're not taking time off? I shook my head. I need the rhythm. The numbers don't lie to me. He patted my shoulder. If you need anything, you know where to find me. I appreciated that. I appreciated all of it, simple, clean respect. I didn't have to explain that my wife of over 2 decades had turned our anniversary into a funeral. I didn't have to justify why I came in with circles under my eyes and a ring-shaped dent in my wallet but no ring on my finger. People saw enough. That night, back at the apartment, Caleb sat on the floor doing homework. No music. No video games. Just silence. Want pizza? I asked. Sure. We ate out of the box, both of us perched on couch cushions. There was no dining table yet. No decor. Just a mattress in each room and a paper towel roll next to the sink. But for the first time in a long while, it felt like a home. After a while, he spoke. Do you hate her? I looked at the half-eaten slice in my hand. I don't know what I feel right now, I said honestly. Hate takes energy. I think I'm just done. Caleb nodded slowly. I figured something was wrong a long time ago. I didn't ask why he never said anything. I didn't need to. You know, he continued, the first time I heard her talking to Greg, I thought it was just a joke. Like, maybe she was venting. But then I heard her say, I've already started moving money. That's when I recorded it. I stared at him. My son. My quiet, observant, level-headed son. Why'd you come to me with it? He shrugged. Because you'd never look through her stuff. And because she wouldn't care if I knew. You would. That hit hard. Not just the truth of it, but how calmly he'd lived with it. I'm sorry you had to carry that, I said. Caleb leaned back. It's okay. I just wanted her to hear herself. You didn't need to scream or make a scene. She did all that for you. A silence settled between us. But this one was safe. Later that week, I went back to the house. Melissa wasn't home. I knew her schedule down to the hour. I walked in with 2 moving boxes and a list. The front door still had our welcome friends sign funny, since friends hadn't stepped foot here in months. I packed fast. Just my things. Nothing she could accuse me of stealing or touching. My shirts, my tools, my books, my photo albums. I didn't leave a note. I didn't slam a door. In the closet, I found the necklace I'd bought her. Still in the box. Untouched. I left it right where it was. Let her figure out what that meant. Back at the apartment, I stacked the boxes in the bedroom corner. Caleb helped me hang the only framed photo I took. The 3 of us at a lake. Years ago. Before Greg. Before all of this. He pointed to it. You look happier there. I said. But that guy didn't know what he knows now. And I wouldn't trade the knowledge, not for any lake, not for any lie. Melissa didn't waste time. Within days, the narrative started shifting. I wasn't surprised. I'd known her long enough to recognize the signs, how she softened the truth just enough to stay the victim. The first message came from her sister. Hey, Eric. Just checking in. Melissa says you left without talking, that you blindsided her. Is that true? Blindsided. That was rich. I didn't respond. What was the point? Anyone who needed an explanation already had the facts. Anyone who didn't wasn't asking to understand, they were asking to pick a side. Caleb showed me a post she put on Facebook a few days later. Not direct, of course. She was more subtle than that. Sometimes the hardest part isn't the betrayal, it's how quickly someone walks away when you needed them to fight. The comments were full of hearts and affirmations. She's so strong. You deserve better. You'll come out of this even brighter. No one asked what she'd done. No one heard her voice calling me pathetic. No one saw her plan the anniversary ambush like it was a reality show finale. She was curating grief, one post at a time. Caleb chuckled bitterly as we scrolled. They have no clue. No, I said. They don't. But I didn't comment. Didn't message anyone. Silence was my defense now. I wasn't playing her game, not in public, not online. A week later, I got an email from Melissa. Just the subject line made my pulse slow. Let's be civil, please. Inside, she'd written a carefully measured paragraph, like she was dictating it to a lawyer. I think it would be best if we handle this separation quietly. We don't need to create unnecessary conflict, especially for Caleb. I'm willing to split the house and assets evenly. I'd appreciate if you didn't involve outside parties or bring up what happened in front of others. It's personal. I hope you understand. Personal. That word, coming from her, tasted like vinegar. I drafted a reply. Simple. Direct. Melissa. You made it public the night you stood up in front of your family and announced your affair. I didn't ask for that moment. You created it. Now, I'll continue handling this with respect and restraint. But I won't lie to protect your image. Eric. I never hit send. Instead, I printed the email, folded it, and put it in the file I'd started building. A quiet little archive in my top drawer. Financial records. Call logs. The audio Caleb captured. Copies of withdrawals she made in the weeks leading up to the dinner. Even screenshots of her social posts. All of it. Not because I was vengeful. Because I'd seen what Melissa was capable of when she felt cornered. And I refused to be caught off guard again. One night, Caleb and I were watching a documentary about Navy SEALs. He paused the TV and turned to me. You think she actually believes the stuff she's saying? I thought about it. Maybe. Some people lie so well they forget where the truth ends. She texted me last night, he said after a moment. I looked at him. What did she say? He pulled out his phone and read it aloud. I know your dad is hurting, but you don't have to choose sides. I love you. I hope you know that. I nodded slowly. She wants a bridge in case her image falls apart, I said. She knows you're the only one who still might believe she has good intentions. Caleb didn't say anything. She lost her right to you when she used your silence as a weapon, I added. But what you do next is your choice. I'll never ask you to hate her. He stared at the TV. I don't hate her. I just don't trust her anymore. That was enough. Melissa called me 2 days later. I didn't answer. Her voicemail was the same tone she used on clients, measured, sweet, pretending nothing had really happened. Eric, I think we need to talk. Not as enemies. Just as two adults. I don't want this to get messy. I deleted it. What she didn't understand was, it already had. She just thought she could clean the mess with the same smile she used to hide it. But that smile had stopped working on me. I kept a list. It started the morning after the anniversary. Just a scrap of paper on the kitchen counter in the new apartment. A list of things to do, not for revenge, but for clarity, for control. When your whole life gets rewritten in front of a dinner table, the only thing that steadies you is a plan. I labeled it priorities. Secure finances. Lock accounts. Find legal representation. Collect documentation. Talk to Caleb. Stay quiet. Each item got its own folder, digital and paper. Every receipt. Every suspicious withdrawal. Every date night she said she was working late, and I had the credit card statement to prove otherwise. Melissa had underestimated me. She thought the quiet guy in the background was clueless, that I never paid attention to the details. But numbers were my language. I'd spent 20 years auditing spreadsheets. Hiding money leaves a signature, and she left dozens. One of the biggest was a $2,200 payment from our joint savings to Eclipse Consulting. I dug deeper. Not a firm. Not a real business. It was Greg's shell company, a fake business he used for media advising. I traced it back to a P.O. box downtown, probably set up so she could funnel him cash without triggering suspicion. I printed it all, every transaction, every trail, and I kept adding to the list. When I met with the attorney, she flipped through my file, one eyebrow raised. You've already done half my job, she said. I like being prepared, I replied. She leaned back. Do you want full custody of Caleb? He's old enough to decide, I said. But he's already living with me. And he's made it pretty clear where he wants to stay. She nodded, scribbled a few notes. And property division? She can have the house. I want a clean break. But I'm not paying her to cheat on me. I'll fight any request for alimony. My attorney smiled slightly. You're not the first man to say that in this office. But I think you might be the first one who can prove it that cleanly. I left her office with more than just a strategy. I had confidence. And after what Melissa had tried to do to me in front of everyone, confidence felt like armor. A week later, I saw Melissa's name pop up on my phone. Again, I didn't answer. She sent a text. We should talk. It doesn't have to be ugly. The words didn't even sting anymore. Ugly? She was the one who lit the match at our anniversary dinner. I was the one who walked away instead of burning the place down. Still, I agreed to meet her. Not to reconcile. To finish what she started, with facts, not drama. We met at a neutral spot, a small coffee shop near her office. She came in wearing a beige coat and oversized sunglasses, like she was dodging paparazzi. I sat with a folder already on the table. She didn't even sit before starting. I didn't expect things to escalate the way they did. I stayed quiet. She sat down slowly. I know I hurt you. I made mistakes. But Caleb shouldn't be dragged into this. He's confused. No, I said. He's not. Melissa sighed. Eric, we can go through this peacefully. We can divide things without lawyers. I slid the folder toward her. She blinked. Opened it. Transaction history. Corporate registration records. Screenshots of texts I recovered from the family iPad. Her voice on a transcript. Once Greg lands this client, I'll finally be done with this boring marriage. She stared at the page like it had physically slapped her. I don't want anything ugly either, I said calmly. But if you push for alimony or try to fight over Caleb, this becomes public. And I won't stop it. I won't protect you anymore. Her hands trembled slightly as she closed the folder. I didn't know you had all this. You didn't think I was worth checking. She looked at me then, really looked. And for the first time in years, I saw fear in her eyes. Not rage. Not defiance. Fear. She wasn't in control anymore. I stood. This is your chance to leave with dignity. Don't waste it. Then I walked out. Quiet. Measured. Exactly how she never expected. It didn't take long for the cracks to show. 2 days after our coffee shop meeting, Claire, Melissa's sister, called me. I hadn't spoken to her since the night of the anniversary. She didn't even say hello. Did you really have everything on her? She asked. I paused. What did she tell you? Claire sighed through the line. She said you threatened her. That you ambushed her with fake documents to force her into signing away the house. Fake? I walked over to my file cabinet, pulled out the folder labeled Eclipse Consulting, and held it in my hand like a brick. She lied, Claire, I said flatly. But I'm not surprised. She's trying to rebuild the story. Claire didn't argue. Look, I defended her for a long time, because she was my sister. But now, it's like she's rewriting the whole marriage. She always had a gift for performance, I said. She just ran out of stage. Claire was quiet for a beat. If you need a witness for anything, I'll talk. I think it's time she stopped hiding behind everyone else. I thanked her and hung up. Another domino tipping. At work, Howard pulled me aside again. She came by the office, he said. My stomach tightened. Melissa. He nodded. Asked if I could verify your salary records. Said she was updating some financial documents. Sounded harmless. But something felt off. She's building a case, I said. Trying to paint herself as dependent. Howard leaned in. I didn't give her anything. Thought you'd want to know. That same day, Melissa called Caleb. He didn't answer. But she left a voicemail. I know you're upset, honey, but I'm still your mother. I miss you. I never wanted you caught in the middle of this. She sounded sincere. Tired. Worn. But then again, she always sounded sincere. Caleb handed me the phone. She doesn't get to play the victim now. He was right. But that didn't mean she wouldn't try. That weekend, word started spreading beyond family. Her coworkers began asking questions, subtle at first. Then came the rumors. I didn't start them. But when people asked, I didn't lie either. And once Claire spoke up, confirming that Melissa had told her months before about the other man, it spread fast. The version Melissa wanted to sell, where I was the cold, checked-out husband, stopped working once the truth had a voice. Her boss at the media firm called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Sorry to intrude, he said. But Melissa listed you as a character reference for a leadership program she applied to. I just wanted to confirm your support before I move forward. I nearly laughed. She listed me? Yes, said you could speak to her integrity and work ethic. I chose my words carefully. I'm not sure I'm the right person for that, I said. But if you need official documentation about her side business with a colleague during work hours, I'd be happy to provide it. He was quiet for a long time. I think that won't be necessary, he said. Thank you for your time. Click. Another wall, gone. The next morning, Melissa showed up outside Caleb's school. He saw her standing by her car through the main window. Didn't go out. Just watched as she stood there holding a small gift bag and a forced smile. When she finally drove off, he called me. She waited there for almost an hour. Like she thought I'd just walk up and pretend everything was normal. I clenched my jaw. You okay? I'm fine. It's just weird. Like she's trying to act like none of it happened. But it had happened. She just didn't control the version anymore. That night, I sat on the couch with a cold glass of water in one hand and Caleb's school calendar in the other. The living room was quiet except for the buzz of the fridge and the occasional siren outside. He walked in and sat beside me. You think she's done? He asked. I looked at him. No. People like your mother don't stop until they've rewritten the ending. Even if they lose, they need to make sure it looks like they didn't. So what do? We stay steady. Keep records. Stay calm. Let her swing at shadows. Because that's what she was doing now, fighting shadows of her own making, trying to silence what had already been heard. The night before the hearing, I didn't sleep. Not because I was nervous. That part had passed. What kept me awake was the weight of everything I hadn't said, the years I'd spent holding my tongue, letting things slide, believing that being the quiet one made me strong. Now, silence wasn't strength. It was evidence. Caleb was already asleep. His door was closed, the way he liked it, one sock sticking out from underneath. He didn't ask to come to court the next day. I didn't ask him to, either. He'd done enough. More than a kid should have had to. My suit was hanging by the bedroom door, pressed and ready. My file folders were stacked in my briefcase, not just legal documents, but a trail of facts, messages, bank records, copies of her consulting payments to Greg's phony company. Proof of deception, organized with the same care she used to stage that dinner. I stood by the window and watched the city move. Distant traffic, lights blinking, a siren somewhere too far to matter. I'd always thought endings were loud, explosive. But this one came quietly, through receipts, audio clips, and a courtroom hearing scheduled for 10 a.m. At 7:13 a.m., my phone buzzed. Melissa. I let it ring twice before answering. Eric, she said. Her voice was soft, breathy, like she hadn't spoken all night. I didn't expect to hear from you this morning, I said. She paused. Do we have to do this? I didn't answer right away. I mean, she continued, what if we handled this privately? Between us. No courtroom, no public scene. We could settle. Agree to terms. Quietly. Now that was something. After everything she'd tried, the staged ambush, the rewritten narrative, the silence she expected me to accept, she wanted quiet. No, Melissa, I said calmly. We're not rewriting this one off the record. Not this time. Her voice sharpened. So you want to drag this out? Let the judge hear everything? You really think that's best for Caleb? I almost laughed. The manipulation was so baked in she probably didn't hear it anymore. You made it public the moment you stood up in front of your family and embarrassed yourself. I'm just finishing the paperwork. She went quiet. I'll see you in court, I added, and hung up. The courthouse was colder than I expected. Not physically, just quiet in a way that felt sterile. Like nothing personal ever happened here, even though you knew it did every hour of every day. Melissa showed up right on time. She wore gray. Businesslike. Hair pulled back. Her lawyer looked like he'd stepped off a billboard. Confident. Arrogant. Expensive. Mine was calm. Focused. She greeted me with a nod and a quiet, "We've got this." We sat across from Melissa and her attorney while the judge reviewed the file. He barely looked at anyone at first, just turned pages, humming once or twice. Then he looked up. Mrs. Bennett, you're requesting spousal support. Is that correct? Her lawyer jumped in. Yes, Your Honor. Mrs. Bennett put her career on hold to support her husband's work. She deserves compensation for lost income and lifestyle sacrifices. I watched Melissa's expression composed, like she truly believed her story. My lawyer stood. Your Honor, we reject that request. Mrs. Bennett had a full-time income at the time of separation, had recently received a promotion, and we have reason to believe she diverted funds from joint accounts without Mr. Bennett's knowledge. The judge tilted his head. You have documentation? Yes, Your Honor. We handed over the records, all of it, page by page. The judge read in silence. Melissa's lawyer kept glancing at her like maybe he'd been left out of the loop. Then came the final piece. A printed transcript of the phone call Caleb recorded. The one where she laughed about the plan. The one where she said, once Greg lands this client, I'll finally be done with this boring marriage. The judge read it twice. Then he looked at Melissa. Ma'am, I've seen a lot in this courtroom. But if even half of this is accurate, you should be grateful he's only asking for a fair split. Her face cracked, just for a second. Like the walls she'd spent months propping up were finally too thin. We took a break before the judge finalized the ruling. Outside the courtroom, Melissa approached me. No smile. No anger. Just tired. You really planned all this, she said. I met her eyes. No, I replied. You planned it. I just paid attention. Court resumed at 11:10 a.m. Melissa sat perfectly still, hands folded in her lap, jaw tight. Her lawyer whispered something in her ear, but she didn't respond. She just kept staring at the judge, like if she focused hard enough, she could will the outcome back in her favor. But it was already too late for that. The judge adjusted his glasses, looked down at the open file in front of him, and cleared his throat. After reviewing the financial records, communications, and supplemental documents provided by both parties, the court has reached a decision regarding division of assets, custody arrangements, and spousal support. No emotion in his voice. Just facts. The sound of a system doing what it was designed to do. The court finds that Mrs. Bennett knowingly diverted marital funds without the knowledge or consent of Mr. Bennett. These actions were concealed through false business records and personal transfers to a third party. He looked up at her then. In light of this, your request for spousal support is denied. Melissa didn't flinch. She didn't blink. But I saw it, the tightening in her throat, the twitch at the corner of her mouth. The unraveling had begun. The judge continued. Regarding the primary residence, the court grants possession to Mr. Bennett. Mrs. Bennett has until the end of the month to vacate. Additionally, she will be responsible for covering all legal fees incurred during the discovery process due to withheld financial information. She finally turned her head, just slightly, toward me. I didn't meet her gaze. I was watching the judge. Because this wasn't about gloating. This was justice. As for custody, he went on, the minor involved is 17 years old and has clearly stated his preference to reside with Mr. Bennett. The court respects that decision and grants physical custody to Mr. Bennett until the child reaches legal age. Visitation may be arranged at the discretion of the child and his guardian. It was done. Melissa closed her eyes for a brief second. She had come into court thinking this would be a negotiation, a compromise, maybe a slap on the wrist. She was used to control, to spinning things her way. But this wasn't her dinner table. This wasn't a room full of relatives who didn't want to make a scene. This was a courtroom. And here, facts mattered more than performance. Outside, the air felt different. I loosened my tie, took a long breath, and let it out slow. My lawyer shook my hand. That, she said, was the cleanest case I've had all year. And you never even raised your voice. Didn't have to, I replied. We parted ways on the steps of the courthouse. Caleb was waiting in the car. He watched me approach through the windshield, arms crossed, expression unreadable. When I opened the door and sat down, he finally asked, "How bad was it?" She lost everything she tried to take. He nodded, then looked back through the glass doors. "I don't feel sorry for her," he said quietly. "Is that bad?" "No," I told him. "It's honest." We drove home in silence, the kind that didn't need to be filled. Later that night, I got an email. Subject line, "Please don't hate me." No message. Just that. I didn't reply. Not out of bitterness. Out of finality. This chapter was closed. The pen was down. The ink was dry. Melissa had tried to humiliate me. She'd lied. She'd schemed. She'd weaponized our marriage for a dramatic exit. But in the end, the only thing she destroyed was her own reflection. I didn't need revenge. I got the truth. And in that truth, I found peace. I didn't see Melissa again for weeks after the hearing. The house, now legally mine, stood like a quiet monument to everything she gave up. I hadn't stepped foot in it since the night of the anniversary. It felt like walking into a museum exhibit called Before the Lie. The furniture was still in place, but the warmth had been stripped out. Her things were gone. At least, the visible ones were. The closet held nothing but coat hangers and broken promises. Her side of the bathroom counter was bare. In the kitchen, the drawer where she kept her favorite teas was empty, though she'd forgotten the electric kettle. I left it untouched. I didn't need to erase her. She'd done that herself? I heard through Claire that Melissa was staying with a friend. She'd been let go from her job a week after the court ruling. Officially, it was department restructuring. Unofficially, someone had forwarded copies of the shell company payments to HR. It wasn't me. I never shared a thing outside the courtroom. But I imagine her boss wasn't thrilled to learn she'd been using sick days for hotel meetups with Greg Weston, who, incidentally, had also resigned. According to Claire, Melissa tried to get in touch with Greg after everything fell apart. He stopped answering. She messaged, called, showed up outside his condo. Eventually, his assistant filed a no-contact request. When a man builds a fantasy around someone else's marriage, he doesn't want to clean up the reality. Melissa had bet everything on someone who bolted the second the lights turned on. Caleb didn't talk about her much. He had school, friends, a part-time job at the hardware store. He came home tired, focused. But I caught him one night staring at his phone in silence. "You okay?" I asked. He shrugged. She texted again. "Wants to get coffee. Says she's in a better place now. You want to go?" He looked at me, almost confused. "Why would I?" "You don't owe her anything," I said. "But you're allowed to figure that out on your own." He didn't answer. But he didn't go either. Melissa's emails to me stopped after the third one bounced back. The last one said, "I never meant to hurt anyone. I just needed more. You made me feel invisible." I didn't reply. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally understood something important. Melissa didn't want forgiveness. She wanted rescue. Even after all of it, the affair, the ambush, the courtroom fallout, she believed someone would still show up and say, "It's okay. You're still the victim." But not this time. She had nowhere left to spin. No one left to spin to. I ran into Claire again by chance, grocery store, aisle 6. She had a cart full of cleaning supplies and frozen dinners. "She's staying at a friend's place," she said, without me asking. "But it's wearing thin. People aren't picking up like they used to." "She's still blaming me?" I asked. Claire hesitated. "No, not anymore. I think she's finally starting to see it." "What does that look like?" Claire gave a half shrug. "She stares at her phone a lot." I nodded. I learned later that Melissa tried applying to another job in media. The hiring manager had been at the same anniversary dinner. Small world. She didn't get the interview. No recommendation. No callbacks. No second chance. People remembered. And when you burn everything for attention, there's nothing left to stand on once the fire goes out. I never wished her harm, but I also didn't stop it. That's the part she never understood. I never had to destroy her. All I had to do was stop protecting her.